consider joining us tomorrow in Rochester, Minnesota for the 3rd Annual Investors and Innovators Forum. This forum will take place on August 1st, tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. at the Rochester Civic Theater. The forum was launched by Destination Medical Center and Mayo Clinic as a venue to foster conversation and collaboration between emerging and experienced entrepreneurs and the investors who support their growth. We will continue these conversations in 2019, bringing together investors and innovators from around the region to talk about the climate for innovation and investment, with a specific focus on data innovation in a variety of industries. So you can find out more and register for the 2019 Investor and Innovative Forum through the link in our show notes. I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where I amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 139 of the podcast today. So today we air our latest in the From the Edge series, talking trends in entrepreneurship with local entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial ecosystem supporters here in Rochester, Minnesota. So today on the podcast, we're joined by Marty Walsh. Marty is a community and business development specialist with CEDA. We're also joined by Cassandra Buck, a local artist and former art teacher who now is very active in the local arts community and owns her own shop called Clover Rose. And as always, we're joined by Jamie Sundsbak, community manager of Collider Coworking. So we had a really great conversation on the podcast today, a lot of which centered around goats. So you'll just have to listen in to find out more. But we talked about new methods of collaboration, especially around shared products or shared space. We talked about ways to encourage community collaboration through spaces that foster connections. We talk a lot about bottom-up growth of communities and the value of just starting something, trying something out to bring people together organically. We chat about the true utility of using social media for both your business and for personal connection. We talk a lot about Facebook Marketplace and the things you can buy there, useful or not. We wrap up the conversation in the end by talking about artisan manufacturing, producing things at quantity while remaining artistic in nature. We talk about advanced manufacturing and the shrinking gap between manufacturing and the art space. You're in for a treat today. So now on to the podcast with Marty, Cassandra, and Jamie. So thanks for being at the From the Edge podcast today, talking about entrepreneurship, trends in entrepreneurship in Rochester and beyond. I don't know. We'll see what we talk about today. So we have some great guests. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Marty Walsh. I'm a community and business development specialist with CEDA. We are an economic development consulting and staffing firm specializing in small communities, primarily in southeast Minnesota, but we do reach now from northwest Illinois up to northwest Minnesota and out to Montevideo and Jackson, and we work in Wisconsin a little bit as well.
And my name's Cassandra Buck. I'm a local artist, Rochester, Minnesota, born and raised. I was an art teacher for 7 years and then became very active in the local arts community. And I'm an arts advocate, and also I just opened up my own little shop called Clover Rose.
And I'm Jamie Sundsbak, and I'm always here.
I was going to say, Marty, I'm glad you have a steel straw. I was just reading something yesterday in National Geographic about all the many different types of straws there are now.
Yeah, they work really well. I am addicted to the Quick Trip, like fresh made cold brew mocha things, and you have to use their cups. So I have to at least have my stainless steel straw.
Your stainless steel straw.
We got like a 10-pack for $3 or something, and they're dishwasher safe, and so yeah, they're pretty fun.
Yeah, I was just reading about that the other day, and I was thinking bamboo might be more for me.
Yeah.
Metal against my teeth.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
the thing.
That is a little weird. Old Abe's Coffee Shop has like 5 different types of straws if you want to sample out what kind works for you.
It's good to know.
Name drop.
But
That was a ton of product placement. Well done.
sounds like we need a sponsorship. No, that was just, complete randomness. But yeah, I was reading that yesterday, and the biggest thing is like the I don't know what you would call it, the curviness or the bendability for like, I mean, you mainly think of like hospital patients who can't like sit up.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing of just making it more like accessible, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, total side note into being green and reducing your carbon footprint. But yeah, well, thanks all of you for being here today to talk trends in entrepreneurship. So I'm interested in what you guys want to talk about today.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that I've seen in the community, which I think is fantastic in Rochester, just because I feel like this is my base. I've been kind of going up to the cities and doing things as well, but is collaboration. I know that's a buzzword, but I've seen in Rochester some really awesome ways that different businesses have collaborated. Just recently, I saw the Cafe Steam and Old Abe punch card. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
The cheating punch card, like you cheat on your coffee person with the other coffee person, and you can get a free coffee if you get so many punches or whatever.
I was excited for that because those are my two places.
Yeah, I thought that
I always
was
feel a
such
little
a
bit bad
good
when I go to one or the other.
I thought that it was just genius to do that. Also, the doubling up of businesses like Forager has Drifto and now Thesis Beer and Cafe Steam are connecting, business-wise. They have the same building. And then artists do it all the time. It's something that we always connect and share ideas and things like that. But seeing it in the, in the business side of things, like it's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I thought one of the ones I thought you were going to say was Lumen Coffee and Dalby's.
Yes.
Dalby's Bakery's been around forever and ever, so it's not just a new thing. Mm-hmm. But you go to Lumen up north, and they have Dalby's. They have the little half long johns, which are awesome. And now I think all Dalby's locations carry Lumen, and they have a huge, like a retail selection even down at their new location on South Broadway. Mm-hmm. So it's an everybody thing, and I think they recognize that they can get a lot of the scale of a big company, but they still get to have that local flavor.
Yeah. I know from an artist perspective, when you go to like a market, all these artists are coming together and creating this space together and connecting and collaborating, and then and they're able to work together to sell their goods and sell their art and whatever they're making. So I don't know. It's just something that I've been seeing a lot more of, and I think in the with the rising costs in space, that's obviously Collider. I mean, everyone, we have to stick together in order to make it. So that's my thoughts on that. I think it's really an innovative way to problem solve. So.
Yeah, and I think that also increases your ability to compete. You were saying with Dobby's, which we're talking about Dunkin' Donuts, that new Dobby's is right across my house within scary walking distance. So
you have the ice cream right there. You have flapdoodles right there. I would be in big trouble.
It's like, if you're going to go, just walk. Mm-hmm. But I mean, why would you make your own? Why would you delve into coffee when you have a great provider who knows how to do it? The same thing with like Grey Duck, and they have Fiddlehead.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, why would they go into doing their own coffee when they can just partner with somebody who brings something great with name recognition that you can just, now you're that much more competitive than everybody else because you've worked with somebody.
Yeah.
So another kind of flip side of that is, how do you encourage that collaboration, and what happens when you can't? What happens when you're not seeing it in a community? We had these conversations before where, when the most successful business communities, entrepreneurial communities, art communities have collaboration and talk within the community. But what happens if you see that break down? How do you encourage it to
blossom? To
blossom, yeah.
One of the things I think needs to happen if that, if there is a problem. And there was that kind of, artists were, this is from an artist perspective, were spread out, working in their basements, not really talking to each other. I would say this is probably like 7 years ago, where, we have the art center and Sumva at that time, but local artists weren't connecting. And so one of the things that we did was, a group of us it was called C4. We created the Creative Salon, and we created a space for people to connect. And so the great thing Collider does, same thing with the business-minded, entrepreneurial-minded, I can't talk today, people creating a space to come together, share ideas. For an artist, that's really important, and everyone's work, we feed off of each other. So you're talking, you're getting new ideas, you're, critiquing each other, you're just getting better from each other. And I feel like, if you don't have that, if you don't have a space to connect, then that's where, things die off, I think. Space is really important. You don't want it to be important, but it is. It's very important.
Well, as someone who thinks space is very important because I make a living off of it, I totally agree. I think there's a number of things that can spur collaboration. One is creating a compelling space to bring people to start, even getting to know each other.
Yeah.
When you're isolated, you don't have that opportunity to really spend time with anyone but yourself and your thoughts. And I can tell you after about 3 days, my thoughts get crazy. So I definitely want to be out. I want to be interacting with people. And so by creating space, it really does draw people in. And that space can be as simple as a coffee shop. It doesn't have to be a co-working space, but just a space where you start to interact with people almost on a daily or every few day basis. That seems to, at least from what I've seen across the country, trends, that seems to really help to ignite entrepreneurial, local entrepreneurism.
Community.
And when you're speaking as someone like me who's, trying to push that agenda forward. The second one is, hard times, bad economies will foster a lot of collaboration because people want to survive, right?
Yep. Survival of the...
So not saying we're in a bad economy because we're obviously not really. But I think, a combination of those things have sort of started to happen in this community, and it has really, started to bring people together to help each other out. And I think
creates
that's
innovation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what you need because, we could be a city full of Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks on every corner, but we've really chosen not to be. And we've chosen to give local entrepreneurs a chance to create something great and new and put it into the world. And I think that's just phenomenal. And I think it's really a testament to what's happening here locally in Rochester that's happening.
Yeah, there's a grassroots. I think it has to happen from the bottom up. So if something's dying off, and there isn't that, that's what I think needs to happen. You would need to foster that space. Like Jamie said, it doesn't have to be a co-working. It could be a coffee shop. It could be even having meetings at a library.
Yep. Meetups are fantastic.
Yeah. Just starting something to get people together.
Yeah. I think that the meeting together, because it allows for an organic conversation to happen, and you never know what tangent thing you can connect on that maybe you never really develop that, but you connect on it and it allows you to develop the thing you're supposed to be working on a lot better between two people. And, working in the rural communities we work in where two people collaborating might be 2 hours apart, that's really challenging. And I always push for people to practice and be better at telecommuting and telemeeting and that sort of thing. But I also never miss an opportunity to get somewhere in person. No, maybe you're not going to learn a ton this class. Maybe you know what's going on, you understand, but it's an opportunity to build rapport with someone so that you can get through a really bad Zoom meeting if you need to, because you have a relationship with this person and you can be friendly and you can move through it, and it allows you to be more productive overall. And I think that's one of the challenges with collaboration, is that sometimes it's very obscure. It's not very structured, and there's not a lot of identifiable deliverables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does happen organically. It's just kind of it just happens.
Yeah. No, I think that space is, if we're going back to that, is so important, and that human interact, because it facilitates that, and understanding that, in smaller communities, more rural, or, smaller ones where maybe that individual isn't in that community, they're in 5 over, so how do you agree? Like, that one-on-one interaction is so important. And I even think, like, when you come to a space, you could come here and sit and not talk to anybody, or talk to them and not talk about your idea. So I would encourage people, like, the same with, an art community. Like, you can get fantastic ideas and spur that innovation just by talking with somebody about what you're doing. Otherwise, we can be isolated and be surrounded by people, but you're just isolated in your own echo chamber of your own thoughts. So I would just throw that out there too.
Sometimes I wonder, and this is more just deep thoughts, such as can come out of my head. But where would we be without social media? I think social media was always branded as the great way to connect everyone together at all times. What if we didn't have social media? What if that caused a lot more face-to-face interaction? Would things be a little bit different? I don't know. But I've stepped away almost completely from social media at this point. It doesn't work for me anymore. It's like literally like the ads you see on the side of Google or something like that. I just don't see it anymore. And I think that I've been more intentional now about bringing people around a table, talking to them face to face, or at least maybe even reaching out and, oh my God, do a phone call with them.
Yeah.
And that's actually, it's actually been so much more productive for me. It's been more fulfilling, and I think we have a richer conversation than this strange exchange of text that goes back over, maybe a couple of hours or a couple of days. And I guess I really don't, it's here. Social media is a thing. It's been very positive in some respects as well. But I think we need to get back to really having people around a table, having discussions and being civil about it. I think there's sort of a wall that you can put between yourself to be more on the trollish side of things when all you see is words and someone's picture. A little bit harder to do that around a table when you're actually maintaining eye contact with those people and really, I think, generating a lot more, at least in my case, empathy for what they're saying and things like that.
That's interesting that you bring up social media. So I've been feeling kind of the same way about Facebook. Instagram's different because it's so visual, and I'm an artist, so I really need that. I feed off visuals. So, but Facebook, I've been honestly using more for like keeping track of what's events are happening, and that's about it. I mean, maybe sharing a meme here and there, but it's not. I don't delve into, like you're saying, you'll say something to somebody you don't know, and you're typing it out. It's a lot easier to type it out than it is, and if you were to say it to them in person. I feel a lot more disconnected when I'm on social media. I besides the event thing, that's different, but event tracking, I should say. As an artist, that is important because we want to go see people's art and connect with different artists. But
I think it's really important. Social media comes across as so native and so easy and so just whatever's out there, and because of the tendencies of the broader population and the people who spend a lot of time and dominate that conversation, it can go down a really negative path, or it can just become, it's so easy to make that ad on the side of the bus type mentality. But if you learn to curate a little bit, that's what's important. And so like what I do, same thing with Facebook, is mostly events and people who I want to keep track of, but I don't necessarily interact a lot with. So either friends from high school, friends from cities we used to live in, or people who I have a loose connection to that maybe it's like, hey, I like this person. We don't have really enough to build a relationship now, but I want to know if they're going to be at an event I'm going to or things like that. So I track that way. And then in a different realm, Reddit is where I go for really like in-depth particular things where I want to nerd out. Like I want to talk about why the guy in the first Star Wars arm bled, even though everybody else's arm got cauterized when they got struck with a lightsaber. Like that's a conversation I want to have. I want to go to Reddit.
Somehow I imagine you in a robe and 3:30 in the morning with a bowl of cereal just engaging with this Reddit forum like crazy.
I'm
showing scene by
about
scene.
My sleep time actually. And then if I want on my more professional geeky development where I want to build out my network, I've been doing more and more of that on Twitter. And that can be silly stuff. Like I'm a 32-year-old middle-class white guy with a background in finance, and I'm playing my first golf tournament today.
Good for you.
Yeah, that's why I have long socks and shorts on. So I can joke around about that, but I can also make professional connections and point to things that I've written about entrepreneurship or about small cities or things like that, and that's there. And then I also use that to engage with a few people who I disagree with politically to try and people who are very civil, but where I want to understand what, quote unquote, the other side is thinking. And then I can be less surprised than some people who I know that live in a very much of a bubble because I've seen, well, this is the logic that they're going with. I can disagree with their logic, but I can understand how they get from point A to point B because I've engaged with them a little bit. But there are people who are just like, nope, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. You are adding no value to my feed or to my platform or whatever. But there's an effort to curating it, definitely.
Yeah. I refuse to read the comments on Facebook or anything because it makes me depressed about humanity.
Yeah, I don't read comments either.
No.
But I feel the same way. Like Facebook, it's just events. And actually, we talked about a trend on here before about minimalism, and I was listening to a great podcast, so I decided in July I wasn't going to do no radio, no TV, unless my husband turned it on, and no social media except for business because I had to. And I thought that I would miss it. I don't even watch the news because that's sometimes the biggest trigger. So I have no idea what's going on in the world, and that's probably a good thing. But I don't even care. The biggest thing has been events. So sometimes I don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll sneak a peek when I'm doing Rochester Rising stuff and have to post it and something will be at the top and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing that I don't know what's going on because everyone's gone to the events on Facebook, but I haven't missed a single bit of it. It's all nonsense.
The only thing is, and you kind of touched on it, is when I meet with people around the table face to face, they are all by and large integrated into the social media world, and they're reading it like crazy. So when you sit down, they assume that you already know everything that's gone on in their personal life because they've already advertised it on Facebook, and you should be totally in the know about all this. And that was the oddest engagement I've ever had in the last couple of years was with 3 of my really good college friends. We got together, and we all just kind of looked at each other, and we have nothing to say because we're sharing it all on social media. It's like we couldn't even have a great hour-long conversation about how our kids are doing because I've seen them from from a baby up to a 5 or 6 year old. It was just like, so what's new? Well, I guess we all know what's new. And it was kind of boring.
Yeah.
It was just like, yep, that's it.
Yeah. But even social media for business, I'm on this marketing panel tomorrow for the We Forum, and I was shocked they asked me to be on a marketing panel because I don't know that I have anything to say, but they thankfully gave me the questions beforehand, and one of it was what is a big mistake businesses make? And I think one of the biggest mistakes is thinking social media will solve all your problems,
Right.
and if you just put stuff on there, I have a business with my husband and his side of the family, and I just started their social media a couple weeks ago. The only people on there is us and my mother. Nobody else is seeing it. My mom loves the post, but she's not going to buy a product from us.
You have to do the work.
Yeah.
You have to put in the time. You have to meet people, connect.
Yeah.
You have to tell them your story. You have to, put up again, I keep saying this, from an artist perspective, put up the poster for your exhibition.
Right.
You have to...
Yeah.
It's
Still
all
do the
front,
work, the
it's keeping
legwork.
it front of mind. 90% of it is just keeping it front of mind.
Yeah.
If I go on and I search for a restaurant in a town I'm going to go to, and they don't have a Facebook page, they don't have reviews, I'm going to be suspicious and maybe I'm not going to take the 10 minutes out of my way. All they need is like one post a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they're open, they're good.
Right.
I'm not more likely because they put 17 posts a day about their special
But you just want to know they're open.
burger. Yeah, I just want to know, like, you are actually there.
Yeah.
This isn't a
Yeah.
defunct page.
Right.
And I think that's we have to hammer on this thing about social media when we're with counseling businesses, because we need that little tiny bit. And it's not natural for a lot of people. But then they think, oh, I need all of my resources to go to this, and that's really not where it needs to be.
It needs footwork. You got to do people always, I've noticed, want to take the easy way out. And not saying that social media work is easy by any means.
No.
I'm just saying they think like, okay, I don't have to do this, this, and this. I can just do this.
You don't have to leave your whatever, your desk, your office, your basement.
And that's exactly it. It is in a lot of people's minds easier because they're at their computer already. Let's just say in a lot of businesses, they can just type out some stuff and send it into the world, add a few pictures, and hopefully some very terrible clip art usually.
And wealthy people will find it.
And then suddenly things will just happen. And it's like, no, you got to get out there. So I've always, we did a ton of social media work in the beginning with Collider, but really, where we get people is just spreading the message, getting out there, talking to people, and suddenly people are interested. That and Craigslist.
Really?
Yeah, Craigslist has been the new,
what do you put on Craigslist?
Just a shared office space for rent.
Really?
Yeah. So Craigslist and then Facebook Marketplace. Those are
Facebook Marketplace is big, and it's
I do like
it's like the new Craigslist, really.
I went down a rabbit hole of that last night, literally looking at animals. They were like, oh, we need a pig. No, there's a goat. There were horses.
For your startup farm?
For my backyard. Which is not allowed.
when you talk about, sorry, there's really animals on Facebook Marketplace.
100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I even put my on Clover and Rose on Facebook Marketplace.
There's everything.
not,
Our neighbor had a tree fall down, and he was looking on Home Depot for a chainsaw because he needed to cut it up. And he just opened his Facebook before he left, and it was like, oh, there's a chainsaw for $50 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
So rather than go pay $150 for a brand new chainsaw, he just went there.
Yep.
Now a little creepy that that's what popped up and that it was
That
there.
is super creepy.
But it was. He was searching on his phone, so it wasn't the thing where you're talking and Facebook knows, because that's a whole other terrifying conversation.
I know.
But you can find all sorts of things, and that's again one of the positive sides of social media. But it can get really negative really quickly, because now it's at your fingertips and you can waste a bunch of money because, oh my God, there's a $5,000 stove for $1,000. I have to get it. No, you don't have to get it. It's just there.
Or a $50 goat.
Or a $50 goat. Or free kittens.
Welcome to Farm Talk.
Yeah. So, now you bring up farm. One of the things that my grandpa and my dad would always have said, is that it's all in who you know.
Yeah.
And that's a farmer mentality. Like, my grandpa and my dad know everybody. It's kind of ridiculous. They could go anywhere and they would know somebody. And that's like the thinking of, talking to people, going out and in the community, meeting with people and sharing your story. So all in who you know. It's important.
It is. I have mixed feelings about that phrase, because I think there's two different versions of it.
What's your version?
So in the same word, it's all in who you know. There's two mentalities. There's the nepotism. You're only going to get this if you know someone.
Oh, no.
And there's that. And then there's the automatic organic networking that happens when you actually physically meet people, and it's all in who you know, because somebody did a poor job advertising this job, and it just so happened to be that you had a mutual friend who said, my friend's talking.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Not in, sometimes, but in the art community, sometimes in the art world, that is true.
Oh, they both are real things.
Yeah.
But it's.
I don't like to give too much power to the other one, because, if you do work hard and you put the effort in, you will get something.
You'll meet the people, you'll build a network that allow it to happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you say that, and people are like, oh, it shouldn't be about that. No, it's not about the.
That's not what I meant.
This person's going to get you a job. It's about this person's going to know about the job even to tell you in the first place.
No, I totally agree with that, especially in Minnesota. I think it's kind of notorious for like a lot of jobs never even get posted, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. And it's not, it's, we're all probably more likely to want to work with somebody that we at least know of, like peripherally, than like some random person. And that doesn't mean you can't come up and talk with me like 6 months before you're looking at for something, and then that'll be a better conversation. But
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
But been here for 12 years.
12
How
years.
does that happen?
That is nuts.
When's the party, and will there be goats?
When are Yins having a party?
Yins are having some pierogies and chipped ham. But it's I don't have any goats. I can't have them in the city limits.
You can have 3 chickens and 3 ducks.
Oh, so how we got on that path of the goats was actually looking for farming equipment looking at like a shelter or like a storage unit on Facebook marketing. It was so crazy. We saw this it was probably like this $50,000 structure in like somewhere in Wisconsin, and they just wanted you to tear it down, and it was free. But it's like, holy crap, that's
really common.
But it's free. But it's crazy. Like things for your business, like you don't need the newest thing. Maybe it's a desk or whatever.
Used
chainsaw if that's what you need. But like a storage unit for a farm, are you going to spend $10,000 or are you going to spend $1,000 in like some labor to go and like dismantle this thing like 5 hours away? I mean, that's still like a process. But
there's still a cost to that. And being able to analyze your costs across different cost metrics is a talent that not everybody has. But
yes, because time is money hidden.
What else could you be doing that would be making money at that time?
That was a fun Facebook hole.
That was a goat hole.
Yes, that was a goat hole. Oh my God. We might edit that one out.
Well, I got to make you work somehow. Can't just be easy.
No, never. All right, maybe we'll go to you, Marty, and see what you want to discuss. Hopefully non-goat related.
That was very organic, how it just kind of went into one thing to the next to the next.
And if it is goats, I don't want to pressure you to have to switch.
Change away from goats. No, but I will integrate art into there. Okay. So then you can find the way to like transition it. So one of the things that I really like to talk about in business development and in entrepreneurism is the concept of artisan manufacturing is the term that I use. And so that can be any sort of downscaled manufacturing or creating process. And how I think it relates to art really well is if you have a scale, and on one side you have somebody who can make some money off their art, but really it's because they're hand selling it and they're doing it in kind of some excess time, but they're not quite able to support themselves, but it's worth their while, and they're maybe selling it to family and friends at markets and things like that. And that's one side of the scale of a professional artist, all the way up to mass-produced Target, Walmart type wall art. Like, that's fine. I have it on my wall right now because I have a lot of wall space, but it's not. It is art by the most generous terms. That's kind of the scale. And to me, artisan manufacturing is this kind of gray area in the middle where you can produce something at quantity, but it is still it's still of an artisan nature, and it doesn't have to be art. So I like to pretend that I'm a fiber artist, and I have a couple of looms. And
that is fiber art.
Yeah, but I don't use them. I said I have.
Oh, okay. I want a loom so bad.
We can hang out. You can see the 4 that I have at my house.
Oh my God.
Floor looms.
Like giant ones?
Loom hoarding.
Yes.
He went on Facebook Marketplace and found
exactly. My sister did for one of them.
Oh my!
Actually, no, I got one on Facebook Marketplace too. Yeah. So that and the thing about weaving is that it is very mechanical, but it is obviously art. You're making choices all the time, and then there's steps to what are called the Dobby loom that are semi-computerized, and that's actually where the first computers came from. Like punch cards were designed to work for picking up the different heddles on looms and making different things. A jacquard loom. and then it processes into fully mechanical, and you can decide where's the art stop here. It's kind of like quilting. There's people who hand quilt, and there's people who machine quilt, and there's people who computer quilt, and where does the art stop and where does just manufacturing begin? Outside of art, though, I think the industry that actually really best represents this is the brewing industry. And why I think of it that way is because over the last 30 to 40 years, they have downscaled the size at which you need to be profitable to use advanced manufacturing techniques. So even a little tiny microbrewery, for every, say, $100 of ingredients they bring in for a basic product, they're probably putting out $400 to $500 in product. So a 600%, 400% gross markup. I think a lot of people would really, really like that on their manufacturing side.
Yeah.
And how they've done that is, when I first got involved in the brewing industry 10, 15 years ago, you would never be considered profitable unless you were investing in a 20 to 30 barrel brewery. Now there's a lot of them at 1 to 3 barrels that are very profitable, that do just fine for themselves. And it's because they've approached embracing technology to scale down and computerized sensors. There's a lot of advancements happening outside of their world that they're bringing inside, but they're maintaining an artistry to it. They're still tweaking recipes all the time.
It's curated.
Curated, yeah. That's a word I use a lot.
It's not like this mass, where they're creating all these different,
Yeah, so they're taking the best of the assembly line mentality and the best of the artisan mentality, and the technology is finally getting there. I see it in the food industry with food processing. I think that's a huge opportunity for us. You can be a small farmer's market person, or you can be Hormel, and we're still developing the tools and adopting them so you can use. The sensors are getting cheap enough, and the methodology is getting cheap enough that we can use it at a 1, 2, 3 person shop. But even in traditional manufacturing, so there's a manufacturer I work with, and I do some business counseling for them. They were able to purchase a 6-figure, so not cheap, but this machine probably 10 years ago would have been $2 million, and they got it, I think, for like $120,000. That it measures plastic pieces down to like the micrometer, and so they have now this level of quality control in a 12 to 15 person shop that 5 years ago would have been something that only 3M or somebody would have been able to control, and they're able to do that profitably, and that allows them to be more efficient with their materials. They have less waste. It allows them to have more high-skilled labor and pay more, and also when their customers come in, they're like, that's the machine that we use, and we're 20 times your size, and it allows them to do a lot more. And I think it's hard for some people to see how this plastics manufacturer using 3D modeling and a dairy producer using an iPad to control the air conditioning in the barn are the same thing, but they are very, 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 very close. And so that's a trend, this downscale of manufacturing tools that allow for artisan manufacturing.
That's interesting.
And art is a huge part of it. Jeb Taylor Knives, when he was in here, CNC machines have gotten so affordable. Nobody's going to say that his knives aren't art, but he also somewhat mass produces them.
Right, but he wouldn't think of himself as an artist.
I don't. Yeah,
but
where do you draw that line? Yeah.
But it's a craft.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, Marty, do you see that as a way that our region could really differentiate itself? Is sort of getting ahead of this curve, or are we behind the curve? Or
I think we're right on the curve. I don't know about getting ahead of it, but I think that with the generational turnover we're going through, there is a lot in the smaller communities of older leadership, people finally getting to a point they want to step aside, and I think that'll accelerate things. But I do think, especially in the food space, that there is a huge opportunity to be the next Hormel and growing. And I guess manufacturing is another one, and we have a really good example of that, and I'm going to do some more product placement for somebody. So Tui Furniture down in Chatfield started about 80 years ago with Frank Tui making handmade wooden chairs in his garage.
Wow.
Very artistic, very Well, and then he started making some pews for churches, and then he actually got picked up to do the pews and all the woodwork at my alma mater, St. John's University, at their Abbey Church, designed by Marcel Breuer. It is a world-renowned architectural site, and so TUI Ecumenical Furniture did that, and then Breuer said, and he worked with Frank Lloyd Wright and all these people, he said, I want you to open a shop with me in New York, a showroom, and TUI grew, and now TUI makes like Bill Gates' personal furniture, and they make great high-end wooden furniture. But in addition to TUI, you've had 3, 4, 5 companies spin out of that all employ people in Fillmore and Olmsted County, 800 people, 900 people, that over 80 years, which is not a long time, you go from an artist, and nobody would call him anything but an artist in the way he started, to a major manufacturing firm doing global sales.
Wow.
And so that's a process of how it's happened over the last 80 years. That could happen very quickly with the technology that we have now, because now you wouldn't need to grow to 200 people to have that advanced machinery. You could do it with 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wrap my brain around that. Jeez.
Yeah, no, I've never thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess the only thing I have to add to that is, kind of how art can be used to kind of activate a lot of these manufacturing spaces that are not being used anymore. Coming from Pittsburgh, I was just there probably about a month ago at this point, and everyone thinks Pittsburgh, they think steel mills. My whole family worked in the steel mill until like 2 decades ago, and now there aren't anymore. But there's one, and I was looking it up while you were talking. It's called the Cary Blast Furnace, and it's been decommissioned for I don't know how long, a good bit of time, but it's turned into an artist haven, and it's really industrial, like there's a beautiful mural painted on it of all these figures in the history of Pittsburgh, and then there's really
I wish we had more industrial space
like
in Rochester.
some kind of sculpture. I did not get to go to this. I picked the wrong tour. But just like really this industrial sculpture art, it's supposed to be beautiful. I really wish I would have gone. But they've just, now they've gotten people into here, which was just unused space, probably space it's being used for things they don't want it to be used for. And now it's been activated, and it's been able to pay artists to portray their art in kind of, it's a very technical community, a very industrial community. So,
and I feel like there is a difference, yes, between art and manufacturing, but I guess my view is that gap is shrinking. And,
well, technology took us to a certain point, and then you're talking about Hormel, and then technology is taking us back.
Right, exactly. The pendulum is swinging back and forth.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that now we're in an economy overall where people have the disposable. There's a lot of people who have the disposable income, and that's kind of a different conversation. But where they want to be buying things, and they want to be buying unique things, and maybe it's not affordable to buy every single item in your house handmade, but you also don't want to buy whatever's on the sale rack at Target or whatever. Ripping on a good Minnesota company here. But I think that there's a space between where maybe, this person made 50 of these bowls.
Right.
And it's affordable because it used to have the same cost for them to make 5.
Well, take it to the next level here. Maybe I'll blow your mind a little bit.
I'm ready.
I have done this. A friend of mine, one of the things that's not struggling, I shouldn't say that, is materials as an artist. Like, let's say you don't really have the funds to buy the materials to make your art. But there is something at Target or Walmart that's on clearance. And what I've done is I found a piece of art and then I turned it into my art.
Sure.
And then I sold it. So like I found a material on sale, and then I created my own out of that material, which is an interesting kind of loop of creation and destroying.
A step off of found art. Would it be any different if you picked that out of a garage sale instead of off the sale rack? People would think of it totally different. But you're right. That's exactly, it's taking advantage of what's there.
Yep. What's available to you.
Now I'm going to be thinking about this all day.
I was going to say there's a heck of a YouTube video series you could create on this that I think would get a lot of people interested.
You think so?
Yeah. Just going
I've
into
done it many
places
times, and I do have to credit a fellow artist of mine, a friend of mine, Heather Girardi, she gave me the idea. She's like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. I'm like, why haven't I done this before? But anyway, sorry.
It's like Game of Thrones with the IKEA rugs for
Yeah.
costumes. Like,
Yes.
that was the first thing. I have no idea what you're talking about, but that's the first thing that came to mind is so much is out there that can be so quickly repurposed if you have the artistic mentality. And like you were talking earlier about sitting in a robe, I was thinking like cosplay. And that's all those things are like, well, this is a robe from Walmart, and this is a steel cylinder from the metal shop down the road that they threw out. It's just
innovation, lack of having, materials or lack of whatever creates innovation. It really does.
Yeah.
Not that we want to have lacking. We don't want to be lacking, but sometimes it's good because it creates the need.
Yeah.
It creates a need, and you fulfill that need,
It's like good wine comes from crappy soil. That sort of thing.
Is that a true thing?
I've never heard that before.
Oh, yeah. Really degraded soils make a lot of the best wine.
I had no idea. I learned something new. I'm learning a lot of new things today.
Well, this was a great conversation. Like I said, lots of new things I'm going to be thinking about all day. We're nearing the end, so I'll just ask you guys to, if you have any final thoughts, definitely leave them, and also let people know where they can find you. As we just talked about social media, but how much we all hate it.
I need to double check that I don't have any numbers. I know what my name is, but I need to make sure I don't have any numbers after it.
That's a good first step, knowing your name.
Oh, do you want me to say my website and all that
Absolutely,
stuff?
yeah.
Okay. So I'm I'm available online to talk, obviously, if you wanted to talk about my art or anything like that. But my website is CassandraBuck.net. It's really simple. I'm on Facebook as well. Clover Rose is also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Clover Rose Minnesota, MN, at Clover Rose MN. And then one thing that I've done is I've separated my my fine art, which like exhibitions and things like that, applying for grants, from my, I call them hobbies, but now they're, I'm creating a brand, my jewelry and things like that, because those are separate. I see them as very separate things. So that's where Clover and Rose came from, is the fact that I'm doing all these things. I'm kind of a Jill of all trades, and why not just put it together into one thing? And that's why I created the shop. So, and that's located in my house, and it's a separate space in my house.
Yay, mixed commercial residential.
Yeah. It's a separate entrance and everything. It's over by Family Video, if you know where that is, off of Elton Hills. And I'm open 5 to 8 on Sunday and Mondays. So, and I'm on Etsy too. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I'm listing all these things. But anyways, yeah.
So most of my stuff that relates to this, I do on Twitter. So Serial Hobbyist 1, because I have a lot. I make bacon and weaving and hiking and all sorts of weird things. And one day, a friend of mine who owns a brewery, who I learned a lot of the industry from, Fat Hill Brewing down in Mason City, we talked about being a cereal, like all the different ways you can say the word cereal and different things. And I was like, I like that, serial hobbyist. So that's also Instagram, but I don't think there's a 1 on there, and I haven't logged in that on my new phone yet, so I couldn't check it. And then I've written a few things for Strong Towns, which is a great website that puts out a lot of really good material. And then I'm on Facebook and all those fun things, just under my LinkedIn, under my own name. So.
And as always, you can find me pretty much anywhere if you Google my name. But probably the best way is if you want to get in contact with me, just go to hello@collider.mn. That's easier to spell than my last name and my first name. Definitely check us out, collider.mn, and now colliderfoundation.org, which is our 501c3 that's focused on helping to create a more vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Rochester.
I just want to say thank you
Yes.
so much
Huge
for
thank you.
inviting
This was a
me
lot of fun.
to do this, and I appreciate what you're doing with creating conversations around, entrepreneurial. I can't talk today. Entrepreneurialism.
It's still the morning.
But I really appreciate you, Jamie, coming and creating this space for people, and for you putting yourself out there and creating a space for people to share their stories and conversation, having conversations with everyone. And I know it's not always an art-related thing, but including us little artists, it helps too. I really appreciate it.
No, I think this was a great conversation. It was really insightful and thought-provoking and fun. And I appreciate, we always love, when people are willing to share their stories and what they're going through, because it's, just helping other people and getting out there. And, I'm sure some nugget in here is going to resonate really strongly with somebody. That's the hope, so, and just helps them. So, without people being willing to come on here, it doesn't happen. So,
well, I just wanted to say thank you, because I do appreciate it a lot.
All right. Well, thanks all of you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to Marty, Cassandra, and Jamie for being on the podcast today and joining in on the conversation. You can link up with these individuals through their social media or website links that are included in our show notes. And if you listening have a great entrepreneur or know of a great entrepreneurial ecosystem builder in Rochester that would be great for this podcast, send us their name and why they should be on the show. Just send us an email at rochesterrising@gmail.com. So you can find our podcasts wherever you listen into podcasts. It's through iTunes Music. So you can find the podcast on most ways that you listen in. So you can find us there. And we also have other stories about entrepreneurship on our website at rochesterrising.org in article and video format. So you can always find out more there. We're on Facebook as well and on Twitter under the handle @RochesterRising. We're on Instagram under the handle @RochesterRising_MN, and we are also on YouTube. All right, that's a wrap for us on the podcast today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you listen into your podcast content so that you never miss a new story coming out of Rochester Rising. We'll see you here again next Wednesday with a brand new episode.